You know what? I didn't think this was going to hold together because I broke all 4 mounting screws off of one of the earpieces when the kids knocked my headphones over.
Mm.
But you know what? It's fucking holding, and it has full articulation still, so somehow that worked out.
Well, you know what else is somehow holding still? Another episode of the Argel Talk podcast.
Fuck yeah.
Getting right into it.
Hell yeah. So it's been what, 3 weeks since we last recorded?
Yeah, 3 weeks
Yeah.
since recording, like 2 weeks since it released.
So it's been like, by the time this releases, it'll probably be another week or so. So yeah, it's been 3 weeks since our 3 or 4 faithful viewers have heard us talk on nonsense. I do want to. Today's episode is all about cavalry, but I do want to address that we forgot 2 consoles on our console mega episodes.
Wait, was it two of
We,
them?
well, we forgot the Opte, and that's a console option.
Right.
And we forgot the Overseer.
Oh, right. For some reason, I always forget that those are like two separate dudes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just buzz my opinion. Short opinion, Opte, I kind of rank them low. It's like, would you like to pay for? Would you like to have an HQ sergeant? If so, he's your guy. He's super cheap, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Um, the Overseer, on the other hand, and I can't believe I forgot him. I rate him quite high, depending on Legion.
Yeah.
You know, here's in the HQ slot. Here's a basically a Centurion who gets access to a power whip.
Which just by
And
itself is incredibly based.
oh, so based. I think it's like strength 3, reach 1. I think it's like AP 4 or 5, and it's like strength 3, reach 1. Like it's goofy, but it's fun, and it's nice to model. And then the real draw is that you can bring up to 60 guardsmen or solar oxmen along with him. 3 up to 3 units of 20 guys. But yeah, and all those units have line, and your opponent has to kill every guardsman before they can go after the overseer. So it's kind of a weird and cool way to put up more scoring in your army that may not score normally.
Yeah, I know I often struggle to fit a lot of line in my lists.
Yeah, but putting a 60 body, 61 body, excuse me, blob on an objective is not a bad way to anchor yourself. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that assessment of those two?
No, because I completely forgot what the Opti even does, and I've never used an Overseer. I've had it used against me, and it was pretty good in the instance that it was used because you get to give those Aux guys, a variant of like Legiones Auxilia, basically, depending on what Legion they run with. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, your Ultramarines guys are not particularly killy, but they're very utility.
Yeah. For the viewer at home, in Ultramarines, the long and short of it is, if I shoot at something, with my overseer and his boys, then that target that I shot at now overwatches as a snap fire when he's charged by another one of my units.
Just like in the old days.
Yep. It's a real gonzo way to deliver suzerains and Bobby G to somebody, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, no kidding. Alright, but that aside, as Gray mentioned before, this is going to be the comprehensive cavalry episode, Everything that you need to know about the cavalry unit type and anything that goes with it. We are going to go through it today.
Oh
But
yeah.
before we get into that, Gray, do you have a pick of the week? I
I
have a feeling ours are going to be essentially the same thing, but go ahead.
I sure do. My pick of the week is going to be Lotera Saren and Demon Angron.
Yeah.
The They are so good. I have no notes about them. I think the studio paint job is not doing the Lotera model any favors.
Sure. It rarely
Um,
does.
yeah, it kind of looks like they got the guy who painted all their Lord of the Rings models back in like 2003. They pulled him out of retirement and they're like, "Here, we have a chick model. Paint this up for us."
The
But
same
other
guy
than
who did the
that,
Sister Dialogus.
yeah, exactly. He gave the Dialogus treatment. Um, but they're great models. I don't know lore wise what the hell, or I guess lore versus crunch. I don't know what the hell Lotera Saren's use is going to be, but I'm
I mean,
excited to
they
see it.
they mentioned in the article that ideally it's for like ZM, which I mean, sure. I don't know that I would have ever given that model rules in general, but like, yeah, I get it, I guess. I will
Yeah,
say, yeah, my pick is pretty much the same. I do have a note about the Angron model is that I do think his legs are a little weirdly skinny, but that's like, oh, pointy elbows, 2 out of 10. Like, sure, it's fine.
sure.
I can't wait to paint my fourth generic bloodthirster, except he's not a generic bloodthirster this time.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the
when I say
big
fourth,
thing.
I mean like 40k Angron is kind of generic bloodthirster. Obviously, Commanda is the big daddy bloodthirster, and then the regular old bloodthirster. They're all kind of the same thing, but Heresy Demon Angron is just enough still man Angron to not have those feelings with it,
Yeah, and I
or
do
that same
appreciate that.
aesthetic.
Yeah, I do appreciate that his armor is just a warp kissed version of his old 2012 Primarch model.
Well, it's
So,
when you look at the 40k version, they are
mhm.
very similar anyway. The I think the 40k version that's like it's not fully enclosed,
Yeah,
which I mean whatever, but like the chest horn inlay is the same. The cod piece is mostly the same. The shoulder the shoulders I think I don't know that I would have put that many spikes. It is a little busy in
yeah,
that regard, but I mean otherwise I dig it.
yeah,
I'm not going to enjoy putting those wings together. It's the almost the exact same thing that 30k Fulgrim has going on. Very long and thin. Where if you look at something like Cabanda's wings are large and chunky, and they were
yeah.
still a pain to try. Like I probably spent like 30 to 45 minutes boiling them things, trying to bend them into shape, and they still got a little weird at the very end.
Yeah, absolutely. But what are you gonna do, right? Um, you got a piss of the week?
I think weirdly enough for this week, I am mostly satiated.
I was thinking I was too, but on further reflection, I kind of I don't think I like the Mechanicum with the Arcutor model.
Sure.
I don't think I like it well enough, but I don't like it as a Mechanicum Arcutor. It doesn't look like a Mechanicum assassin tech priest. It looks like a Necromunda character. Like you could have told me it's the High Lady of Fire number 2, and I would have believed you.
Sure.
Nothing about it particularly seems Mechanicum.
Does it not
So
have like symbols or like an archimand or mechadendrites or anything like that?
I think it has mechadendrites, but it's just like a chick with mechadendrites on it. Let me pull it up. What's an Arcutor? That isn't like all Mechanicum words. It is stupid to spell. Yeah, so like she's got a Mechanicum symbol on her belt and like a headdress that's cog-toothed. But realistically, like she doesn't have mecha dendrites. She has like mechanical arms come over the back. They really look more like Dark Eldar homunculi kind of arms. You know, it's like
Yeah, they're a little more like
Hyrugian snippers.
crab-like than wrench-like.
Yeah. Now the little dude that comes with her, with the weird like stunted Mechanicum midget, he is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm a slut for little like stunted dudes that come with characters.
Yeah, like I would die defending him with my life. He is great. She's kind of a weak myth. Like she looks like a Necromunda character. She does not look like a Mechanicus character.
Yeah, I can kind of see that a little bit.
Yeah, the high data princess of Spire 3. And I'm like, yep, sold. I believe you. So I don't know. It's not a bad model, it just doesn't scream Mechanicum to me. It's not what I pictured. Pictured something probably a little closer to those chicken legged sword guys from the 40k Mechanicum line that I can never remember their
Yeah,
name of. I don't know. Rusts, walkers,
something like
sand
that.
jumpers. I don't know. Voltaic snippy boys. I don't know what the fuck they call them. Anyways, shall we jump right in on the cavalry?
Yeah, so there are a lot more than you might think cavalry units that are spread out throughout all of the various armies in the Horus Heresy, and we're going to tell you about them all. So first off, we need to know what is cavalry. So cavalry itself is a unit type. It is a main unit type, not a subtype. And it has all of these rules. You cannot pin cavalry. They are not slowed by difficult terrain even when you're charging, so you don't suffer like that -2 for walking or charging through it. However, all difficult terrain is considered to be dangerous terrain, which for dangerous terrain checks, you roll d6 for every model that takes a dangerous terrain check, and on a 1, they suffer a wound against which only invulnerable saves can be taken. You can't take any damage mitigation, feel no pain, armor saves, anything like that. Furthermore, cavalry models move 3d6 when they fall back instead of 2d6, and cavalry can only be joined by cavalry. So you can't put like a jump pack guy to attach to a unit of cavalry. And that really is the only thing that qualifies cavalry. In most cases, there's some form of bike or jet bike, but not always. Especially as we'll see in like the militia and solar auxilia lists, they're neither of those. Another important thing to look at, just to mention real quick, because just eyeballing about like 60 to 75% of cavalry in the game are of the anti-grav subtype. So that's an important thing to look at and to keep in mind as we go. So the anti-grav is a subtype, and basically they get to just fly over terrain, right? So impassable terrain, they can move over it, treat difficult terrain as if it wasn't there completely. However, if you start or end your move in difficult terrain, you take a dangerous terrain check. Also, anti-grav can never benefit from a cover save under any circumstances. So, with those in mind, let's look at what the cavalry that are in the game are, starting with the good old Legiones Astartes in their fast attack section, the Outrider Bike Squad. Gray, you want to
Right.
tell us about the Outriders?
Yeah, I got it. Let me open our handy dandy Legiones book. So, bike squads, and we are scrolling. Here they are. Outriders. So there's 85 point space. You start with a sergeant and 2 guys. They move 14 inches. Other than that, they're standard Legion stats. They do have skirmish, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, skirmish is
We don't.
real good, especially if you fit these guys out for number one for melee combat, being able to get that extra 1 inch coherency as to who can fight. But then
Yeah,
just being able to put because you can put these guys in cover.
yeah, you can. They also have relentless, which I don't know that that makes much of a difference.
It does if you're
Their
running plasma
loadout.
bikes.
I guess it does. Yeah, on plasma it does. They have scout, which is good. Hit and run. And then the 2 rules everyone forgets they have: Hammer of Wrath and Firing Protocols 2. Everyone forgets that they can shoot their bike guns and their guns in their hands.
Yeah, it's of a particular value when you're like, all right, I just hose down, that dreadnought with a bunch of plasma. It's got 1 wound left. Well, I still have 10 bolt pistols. Maybe I'll get something. And then, hey, sometimes you do.
Yeah, more often than not, you get that one spite wound at the end that you weren't expecting to get.
It is
Other
also
than
important to note that they do carry both a bolt pistol and a chainsword. So despite having one base attack, they have two, like a despoiler, essentially.
yeah, they're every 3rd guy can take a power weapon. I think. No, any model can take a power weapon.
Yeah, any
Even
model
better.
can take a power weapon, or a sharpenable weapon, or a lightning claw, or a shotgun.
The
Those are
free
all
shotgun
a
is good.
yeah. You exchange your chainsword for it, but you can have it.
Yeah.
You can also take the Vexilla and Nuncio Vox, and you can take these guys in squads up to 10. You can also give them hand flamers or Volkite Serpentas if you want to exchange your bolt pistol. But the real goodies, besides the power weapons, are exchanging your Spatha Bike's twin-linked bolters for twin-linked flamers, twin-linked melta-guns, or twin-linked plasma guns. Now, an important piece of all of what I just said is I did say that they are the Spatha Combat Bike. And this is its own war gear item. So a Spatha Combat Bike comes with a Twin Link Bolter, which, as we just said, you can replace in an Outrider squad with any of those weapons. Additionally, the Spatha Combat Bike is what gives the Outriders the ability to run and gain an automatic 5-up Shroud until the beginning of their next turn without having to utilize a reaction. That also is what upgrades the Outriders to Cavalry, gives them skirmish, and all that movement stuff.
Yeah. So they're fairly good. They do get very expensive very quickly. So if for the folks at home dreaming of running, you know, 30 plasma gunners, realize that's going to be in most games. It's going to be like 2/3 to 3/4 of your list right there.
Yeah, I think one of the things about these guys is that they are both a melee unit, like a fast moving melee unit. They can all take power weapons and have a bunch of attacks, and they're a fast moving, plasma, flamer, melta delivery vehicle. You can have the same squad do both, but at least in my opinion, that's not a very good idea. It's going to get real expensive real quick. Not everyone's making it home, and
Yeah.
you're gonna waste some opportunity cost, but you can do it. They're a
Yeah.
very flexible unit, and I rate them very highly.
Yeah. I think if you're gonna do all the bells and whistles, all the melee upgrades, and all the shooting upgrades, probably should not run maximum squads.
Yeah, of real important note there is you can give these guys a Vexilla, which will keep them from running the 3d6 that they
Mhm.
otherwise would. Also keeps them from running off the table, but back in the previous edition, it was both bikes and jump units that fell back 3d6, but now it is only like cavalry type units that do so.
Yeah.
And you can give them a Vexilla to make them go 2d6 instead of 3d6, which can make all of the difference.
Again, one thing to keep in mind as we go through cavalry and we kind of break down what they do and what they have, you're gonna find that somebody when they wrote the second edition of Horus Heresy had obviously gotten bad touched a lot by White Scars last edition and took it out on all cavalry units.
Yeah,
You're gonna
so
find that.
speaking of, the next thing we have is the Legion Skyhunter Squadron. These guys are your jet bike guys, and they're a little faster. They have movement 16. Interestingly enough, they have 2 wounds, but a 3-up save. That's the change from the previous edition, being they used to all be in artificer armor. So I guess the trade-off was they gave them 2 wounds instead of 2-up armor. But
Right.
these guys are the first of many anti-grav cavalry units. So these guys, once again, they have their scimitar jet bike. It comes stock with a heavy bolter, and they also get a 5-up shroud whenever they run. However, they are still anti-grav, so you're not getting any cover saves.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, these guys, in my opinion, are a lot more. They're sort of the heavy weapons squad to the Outriders tactical support squad. They can take, the same Vexilla and Nuncio Vox, but instead of flamers, regular meltas, and plasma guns, you can replace their heavy bolters with Volkite culverins, multi-meltas, or plasma cannons. And you can still give anyone a hand flamer or a Volkite Serpenta, and your sergeant can still take some weapons, but otherwise you can't give any of these guys power weapons. These are a very shooting focused unit.
This was really combined 2 units into one here because this used to be in first edition. You had the heavy support bikes, jet bikes, and you had the fast attack jet bikes.
Right, they
You do not
were.
have that anymore.
Yeah, the Sky Hunters were still the fast attack, and the Sky Slayers were your
Or the
heavy
heavy support.
support. And as I recall, I think it was only the multi meltas and plasma cannons on the Sky Slayers, and then the Sky Hunters could take the Volkite Culverins. I
And the
know
yeah,
in my White Scars, I had like a mixture of heavy bolters and Volkite Culverins in each squad. And you can
yeah,
still do that for Sky Hunters. You can replace their guns individually. The difference between the Outriders is the Outriders all have to do it.
yeah,
So you can't have, a couple flamers, a couple plasma. But you can do that. Sky Hunters, you could have a couple heavy bolters, a couple multi meltas if you wanted to do that.
yeah. I think you're gonna find a lot out in the field here. If you see this unit, you don't see it very much this edition. Because it's fairly fragile for what you're paying. It's extremely expensive. I mean, they're 30 points a guy.
Yeah.
If you see it in the field, you're going to see mostly multi-melta and Volkite culverins.
Yeah,
Those are going
that's
to be your big money makers.
that's how I run them. I don't run any more heavy bolters in my White Scars. It's all a Volkite squad and a multi melta squad, and those are dedicated. I don't mix them. They want to do 2 very different things.
Definitely. So, and if you run a multi-melta, know that you're running them to die. So,
Oh yeah, that's it.
keep in
It
mind, they're
doesn't really
dying.
matter what else you have on the table. Um, the
Multi-melta
multi
jet
melta
bikes will
jet
die.
bikes are like target priority #1.
So, take them first turn, run them as far as you can, and put as many hot holes to that enemy Spartan as you can before you get dropped. Because you
Indeed.
will die. They're not seeing turn 2.
I mean, they might see turn 2, maybe even turn 3 if you're lucky, but they're definitely going to get a lot of stuff thrown at them.
Yeah. They're gonna have a bad day. All right. What's our next Marine one?
So
The
next up on the
Proteus?
very next
The
page
Javelin.
is the Javelin. These
Javelin.
guys are very similar. I mean, they're land speeders, right? So it's a Javelin land
Right.
speeder. The interesting thing about these guys is they're also anti-grav. They're also heavy for some. Like, I can't really tell you why they're heavy, but they are. So they can't run. They do get to re-roll armor saves against blasts, and that's the thing that is different this edition than last edition. Last edition they were vehicles, and now they are not that. Now they, instead of being a light vehicle, they're a toughness 6, 4 wound, 3 up save model.
Yeah.
And the Legion Javelin is another piece of war gear once again. And it comes baseline with a heavy bolter and a cyclone missile launcher with crack and frag missiles.
And they have a special rule that's
They do.
specific just to the land speeder.
Yeah, so
It is
probably the reason
Harbinger.
that they're heavy being real here, they have the Harbingers of the Legion special rule, and this allows them to re-roll all of their. Is it all of their damage mitigation or just Shroud?
They
I think
can
the only one
reroll.
you're getting for them is Shroud anyway under most circumstances. But yeah, they can re-roll their Shroud roll. It
It
also
all.
means that you can't put anything attached to them. So even if you were to have, a Praetor on a jet bike, you cannot put him in a unit of javelins because of this rule.
It also never counts as a scoring unit or a denial unit, regardless of any other rules in play.
Yeah, they're almost like destroyers, but they're just
Yeah.
dudes in a land speeder.
Now
It's
they
an
do have
interesting
fire,
choice to be sure.
but you know what? Having that heavy does give them some durability against the odd blast template or flamer template, or whatever that's worth.
Yeah, because I mean, as we often bemoan, is that most of the blast weapons in the game are AP4 now. Well, if you have a 3 up armor save, you're getting to re-roll that save.
Yeah,
It's not
they're
too bad.
basically immune to it at this point.
Yep.
Um, they
So
have Fire Protocol 4, which is of note.
yeah, because once again they have bolt pistol and chainsword and 2 attacks base. So you have 3 attacks with these guys for bolt pistol chainsword.
Yep.
But you have your bolt pistol, you have your missile launcher, you have your heavy bolter, and you can replace that missile launcher with 2 las cannons or 2 Volkite culverins. And I think they came out with a PDF rule set that lets you put heavy bolters on them as well.
Ooh, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah,
That
it
could
was
be
a while
silly.
ago. But yeah, so that's where your firing protocols 4 comes in, is because instead of being one twin linked missile launcher, it's 2 las cannons. So your bolt pistol, your heavy bolter, 2 las cannons. You can also replace your heavy bolter with a heavy flamer or a multi melta, and you can also take up to 2 hunter killer missiles, which are one shot strength 8 AP3.
So they're fairly sturdy. They're a sturdy, point efficient tank killer.
Yeah, they're 90 points. It's 5 points to get the 2 las cannons. That's 2.5 points per las cannon, which is insane.
Yeah.
10 points for a multi melta, and they're 90 points each. You can have up to 3 of them in a unit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so for 105 points, you have a fairly good shot at first turn ganking enemy armor. They're nasty, but they will draw a lot of fire. People will do their best to kill them.
Yeah,
They're a
and
tough six, which
being that
helps a
they
lot.
are not vehicles anymore, it is indeed possible to instant death them with murderous strike or just something that's strength 12, which is not super common, but it is definitely out there.
Eris Manus can do it.
Whereas Manus can do it. I think Demolisher cannons are strength 12. I want to say the Leviathan Siege Drill and or Claw, one of them might be strength 12.
Yeah, I think the claw might be.
Another thing of note, this applies to basically any of the anti-grav, so nothing anti-grav inherently grants deep strike. However, the Sky Hunters, the Legion Javelins, and basically anything else that's on some form of jet bike or land speeder also has the deep strike special rule, and Javelins also have outflank
Yeah, and hit and run still.
and hit and run.
Yeah, so they're pretty fucking great, honestly.
Yeah, they are very effective. Whether you go for missiles and heavy bolter or las cannon and multi melta, like they're gonna do work.
Yeah. Now, right behind them, we have the land speeder at home. Or when you ask mom for a javelin and we said land speeder at home, you get the Proteus. 60 points only. One less toughness, but 2 inches more movement.
Yeah, these are
You
some fast
trade.
boys, and they are not heavy. So these guys aren't
No.
heavy, but they still have harbingers of the Legion. So these they can
Yeah.
work. However, the Proteus land speeder does not grant the automatic shroud when they run. It's just a Legion Proteus land speeder has one heavy bolter.
Yes. But they can take that. One, they can form in squads of up to 5 speeders, and they can replace that heavy bolter with a heavy flamer, havoc launcher, multi-melta, Volkite culverin, plasma cannon, or graviton gun. And you can pay between 5 and 25 points and all that to give it a second one of those sitting up top, and it can take up to 200 killer missiles.
Yeah, so
So,
you can have one weapon or two. They don't have to be the same one if you don't want
no.
to. Again, you can replace any of your weapons with anything. It doesn't have to be unit wide. They are a
Yeah.
very toolbox unit.
They are, I think they're underrated. You don't see a lot of these on the table.
You don't see a lot of them on the table. I think that's because they're somewhat of a new-ish unit. The Proteus existed as a unit entry last edition, but it was like a I don't even know what it was in, like what book, if it was in one. And they didn't
I know the
really
model came out
have a
after
heresy
book 8.
model for a while. Yeah, you just had to use the 40K land speeder.
Yeah, it did get a model after book 8. So it was like one of the last models in first edition Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty model, boys. It's fairly ugly, but it does grow on you when you realize that it's just a cheap toolbox for heavy weapons.
Yeah, I tell you what, these will do is, you load up on grav guns, and they're a little bit sturdier than the jet bikes are. So if you need something in your fast attack that can kill vehicles, these guys don't even really need to worry about a flare shield on a Spartan. Although you're not going to blow it up, but you'll have plenty of shots.
Yeah, it's also fairly good Volkite delivery system.
Yeah, like honestly, if you just want something sturdy in your fast attack slot to throw out Volkite, you might want to pick these over Sky Hunters.
Yeah, they're pretty great, honestly. I like them. I rate them high.
Yeah.
I think that's all of our generic cavalry, other than the option to take jet bikes or spatha bikes on.
Yeah,
No, you
it
know what? There is
is.
one more generic cavalry. We forgot one.
What's that?
It's the attack
Oh
bike.
yeah, the attack bike, right? I was thinking to specially ask you about the attack bike, Ray. I know it has a special place in your heart. That shriveled old thing.
So Attack bikes were fantastic last edition. It was like, here's a 40-point multi-melta that just zooms on from the side of the field. They originally they are a PDF unit, and they were originally overpriced and terrible, and now they're just terrible. So they're moving up in the world. They did go back and address it. So a Spatha attack bike for the kids at home is the 40K attack bike with the guy in the sidecar with a heavy weapon. So, oh, they changed that. Good. So it does have 2 wounds. It used to be you got 1 wound. It was brother. The Primarch said it was my turn with the wound for about a year, and
Yeah,
that made
because there
everyone really
is
kind of.
physically like 2 Marines present on the
But
bike
they
in the model.
they originally had 1 wound. It was the funniest thing ever, except for those of us who had built like 10 of the bastards and now couldn't use them. Um, it does all the same things that a Spatha bike does. Firing protocols 2, skirmish, hammer of wrath, relentless, shrouded 5+, 14-inch move. Does have the 2 wounds, like I said. And 2 attacks, which it had 1 attack when it came out originally. Now, what you get over a regular Spatha bike is that sidecar comes with a heavy bolter, which for no additional cost you can turn to a heavy flamer, or for 15 points you get an autocannon, and 25 you can change it to a multi-melta. Still too expensive for what it does. A 70-point multi-melta is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you just take scimitars, and then they also have 2 wounds.
Yeah, just take for what? 30 more points, 40 more points. You can just take 3 Outrider bikes with meltas on them, and you'll be just as happy. Possibly more.
Yeah,
You have more wounds, more shots. You're fast enough, the distance doesn't matter.
yeah,
But I do think the autocannon is a neat option because no other cavalry other than the Kizagan has autocannons.
that is true.
So if for some reason you just really like are into old like World War II Wehrmacht bikes and you want to model that on your dudes and your legion, this is your spot to do it. Personally, I do it like the old World War II Italians where they put an anti-tank gun on a Vespa, but
Man, those were the days, huh?
oh yeah.
Well, that was before we had the Toyota Hilux.
Yeah, they had to get crazy with it, and you had Vespas with you know, autocannons on it. You had recoilless rifles with mini nukes, all kinds of good stuff. Thankfully, Toyota put it all in one package for us. S- so do we want to talk about specific Legion special
Yeah,
cavalry? Because I think there's
so
only
there is
2.
there is only the 2, and they both belong to the 5th Legion White Scars. So the just as part of the generic armory of the White Scars, they have the Legion Shamshir jet bike, which is the same as a scimitar. In fact, you exchange a scimitar for a Shamshir for no additional points cost. Really, the only difference is that uh, it gets a scatterbolt launcher instead of a heavy bolter. And a scatterbolt launcher it's basically a flamer template heavy bolter. It's a strength 5, AP4, assault 1, shred, and pinning. So that's not nothing.
No, it's not nothing.
You can give
I don't.
that to any of your independent characters, but it is also the main ride of the Elite's Choice Golden Keshig Squadron. Now, these guys are a White Scars only unit. They have a 15-inch move, which is it already has the white scars +1 movement tacked onto it, so they're basically the same speed as a scimitar. These guys do have 2-up armor, just like in the old days. Um, my big one of my so we'll get into it, but one of the issues with these guys is that they are heavy. So despite being a fast-moving melee-oriented cavalry unit, they cannot run. But they do have hit and run and relentless. Interestingly, they don't have deep strike. But they also, the biggest draw for these guys is the Kantos Power Lance. So starting at 3 guys and up to 3 more, each guy gets for free a Kantos Power Lance. Think, jousting. This is what these guys do. They charge in, they hit a dude with their lance, that guy dies. Because the Kantos Power Lance is Strength 10, AP 1, Lance, Brutal 3, Sudden Strike 4, Two-Handed, and Ungainly. Ungainly is this guy's biggest downfall, in my opinion. You can only attack with that weapon when you make a successful charge, and you don't get any bonus attacks for charging or from any other special rules that might give you additional attacks. So you charge in there, and it has to be a successful charge, meaning it cannot be a disordered charge. These guys have 1 attack base. The champion has 2, and they are weapon skill 5, so they're at least slightly quality. But anything that you really want to kill these guys with is probably something that's an elite unit, elite terminators, dreadnoughts. So these guys would be great dreadnought killers if not for the fact that dreadnoughts are fearless, meaning that they automatically pass their morale check for hold the line, which disorders a charge.
I think they're big use. When I listen to their stats don't seem to be really jousting boys. And GW's continuing efforts to be racially sensitive, they have made the Asian Space Marines, the Japanese suicide, the tank bomb on a stick guys. Really.
Yeah, I mean, so it is strength 10 AP 1, and that's going to kill the shit out of a lot of things.
Did you say it was Lance as well?
It is Lance, so yeah, you're not even,
Down to
you're
so
popping a Kratos or a Spartan or whatever AV-14 that you think you might not be able to pop because it's only strength 10, and you're looking at AV-14, and you forget that it's Lance. That has definitely never happened to me. It couldn't be me. But yeah, I mean, they're gonna kill
tanks,
whatever they touch if they manage to touch it.
yeah, and tanks don't hold the line.
They sure
It's
don't.
weird because I think their roles laid a little bit different in last edition, but in this edition they're pretty much their premium use is to jet forward first turn and poke holes in a tank and get rid of it. As
Yeah.
many tanks as you can get touch at one time and get rid of it. Really.
Well, not as many at one time because multi-charging is disordered.
Sure.
But
But
they have a little bit more durability with that 2-up
true.
armor save, and the heavy for whatever that's worth, which could be something.
Uh,
But yeah, I think if you want these guys to be at their true glory, they're gonna need like a chaplain to be able to re-roll that singular attack. Your best bet would also to be give them a telepathy storm seer so that you can just turn off reactions for whatever you think might try and hold the line.
yeah. It'd be
Otherwise,
great.
you're gonna have a rough time with these guys, I think, unless they are dedicated anti-vehicle, and I don't know. I don't know if that's the worst way to run them. I don't know if it's the best way. I think it's a good way.
So
But these guys are screaming to be like your command squad equivalent, just like with everything they represent. So maybe killing tanks is, I mean, whatever you need them to do, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think the Legion lore and all that, you want to use them for your command squad, but it's like, nope, get a command squad, go fight guys. Use these to poke holes in tanks. Like, if I had a Predator squadron and you threw this at them, at my Predator squadron, I would shit my pants immediately.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean, you're not wrong.
that entire all 3 tanks are going down.
The thing is, you can do the same thing with multi-melted jet bike squads from further away.
True. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be charging them. You can be, 12 inches away and still get melta. But they are an
Yeah.
elite slot. For some people, it's very competitive. For some people, it's not. I rarely, if ever, fill out all of my elite slots, especially not in my white scars. Whereas fast attack might get a little more crowded.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're playing these guys, you're playing white scars, and you already have the option of having jet bikes in your troop slot. But we'll mention that when we mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've in all fairness, I have used these guys, but it was only once, and I'll admit I grievously misplayed them, trying to outflank with the Khan, and that is just like a 600 something point trap.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That's a third specific cavalry unit, the Void Bike.
Yeah, yeah, we can
But
talk about that right after we get through the Kaizagan Assault Speeder Squadron.
which is
Now
probably the
these
best of the speeders in the game.
I think so. Unlike the Golden Keshig, I rate these guys very highly. I run 4 of them generally in squadrons of 2. They are also heavy, but they are toughness 7. And their biggest thing is that they come with a Carries assault cannon and 2 Reaper autocannons. So the Reaper autocannons are twin linked. They're rending 6. The Carries assault cannon is 6 shots of rending 6. I mean, they're strength 6 and strength 7 respectively. Like they do good work.
Yeah. Anything short of Land Raiders, they're gonna put in the ground, pretty much. And even the Land Raider isn't safe.
Yeah, you're not gonna blow up the Land Raider like you might with a las cannon javelin, but you could glance it to death for sure.
Yeah. And anybody getting out is gonna have a bad time when they get shot at by these jokers.
Absolutely.
I rate them high. They're good. They're real good.
Yeah, I'm always now they are a little bit short ranged. I think the Reaper's 36 and the carries is 24.
Yeah.
They might even both be 24, but I think it's 36 on the Reaper. And they are movement 15, but again they are heavy, so you have to get a little close. But yeah, I mean you're gonna be able to deploy them in such a way that you're gonna have good targets turn 1 anyway. It's not really an issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, you're gonna have a good time the whole time, man.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody bring those and go, God, I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually it's the opposite. It's God, I wish I had 2 more.
Yeah, 100%. Like 3, if you were to put all 3 fast attack slots with just maxed out units of Kaizagans, it would not be the worst idea you could have.
Yeah, what is that? They max out at what, 9 then? Total? Yeah, that'd be brutal. Because that's tough to deal with because they're tough 7.
Yeah.
They're just hard to take out.
Tough 7 and 4 wounds is not squishy at all.
No, that is tough to take out.
Now, because we didn't mention it, so the other Legion-specific cavalry unit that you can have is the Primarch Jagatai Khan on his Sojutsu pattern Void Bike. I'm not going to go too deep into detail on the Khan himself, but it is a 25-point upgrade for him. It puts him at an 18-inch movement and gives him an additional wound for wounds of 7 instead of 6. Last edition, it brought his initiative down by 1, but it no longer does that.
Right.
And the Void Bike does also come with 2 Mastercrafted Heavy Bolters. Gives him Hammer of Wrath 2 and Firing Protocols 3. Eat that, Perturabo, with your Firing Protocols 2 that they took away from you. It does give him Anti-Grav, of course. He would fall back 3d6 instead of 2 if that was a thing that he ever did. I'm not entirely sure when a Primarch is falling back, but if it were to happen, then it could. And it does make him cavalry, so all the restrictions that come with that, as far as joining units and whatnot.
Yeah.
It is sadly not something that has an official model, but it is definitely the cooler and more based option. So that is all of the units in the Astartes list. How can you use them, you might ask? Well, lucky for you, there's a number of different legions that have the capability of doing great things with all sorts of cavalry. Obviously, there's the White Scars. They're kind of the ones that are the most known for it. On top of having their special units, one of their rights of war, the Shigorian Brotherhood, allows them to take both Sky Hunter squadrons and Outriders as troops and gives them line, which is a thing that not all rights of war does. That is, I mean, just on the face of it, that's really good by itself. Like that is a great thing for cavalry to be able to move, because everything that we talked about is, except for the Golden Keshik, is all in the fast attack slot. So having 6 troop slots that you can then open up to your Outriders and your Sky Hunters,
Yeah.
pretty good. I like to
Pretty
run
great.
2 units of Sky Hunters, one with Volkite, one with multi Meltas, and then a 10-man unit of Plasma Outriders. And they do. They don't. I'll be honest. I don't have a fantastic win rate with White Scars this edition. But you know what? They all look good doing it, and I always have a blast.
Yeah.
And
I think
that
they're
is entirely skill issue, I'm sure, and also the anti-grav stuff.
yeah, getting anti-graved sucks.
Now the limitations to that. So all of your infantry will gain outflank, but all your infantry have to begin in outflank, or at least in reserves, or just on a transport. That's also an option. But you also can't have any supports that are not flyers, which puts a huge dent in a lot of the flexibility that you can have. Basically, your heavy support is either going to be a Charybdis Assault Claw and a Fire Raptor. I don't know that either of those are fantastic choices. The Fire Raptor's not awful.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you do have the Kestis assault ram.
Yeah, that is also a thing that you can do.
Does it limit you? All your heavy support has to fly, or it has to be in a
Yeah, you
flying
can't have
transport?
anything that is not a flyer.
Gotcha. That's more limited than the other right of war for bringing cavalry in the troop slot.
Right. So another one another one very near and dear to my heart is the Night Lord's Swift Blade. This is a real neat one because not only does it let you take Outriders, specifically Outriders, not Sky Hunters, as troops, however, they don't gain line, it also gives you an additional 2 HQ slots. Now, all your HQs have to be on bikes, but you can have 5 of them, and they all get to be the Warlord. They have to have the Jadek Clanlord Warlord trait, but that's fine because that's the one that lets you reroll failed dangerous terrain checks. So all of your HQs and the units they join get to reroll failed dangerous terrain checks. That's pretty good. The only limitations is that it has to be a primary detachment. Sure, why not? You can't have anything that has to be the warlord, such as Conrad Kurz. And you also
Yeah.
can't have anything that is heavy, bombard, slow, super heavy, or artillery. So that does take out your javelins. It takes out a lot of stuff, really. But, I mean, it's a lot easier to work with, that's for sure. I like to run a double unit of laser destroyer vindicators, because they are none of those things.
Yeah.
And I'll typically run. I'll only do 2 to 3 HQs. I don't really take advantage of all of that, but that's because I'm only taking 2 units of bikes. I have one that's a little more melee focused with lightning claws, and then of course the classic 10-man plasma bike squad. I will say now, I think the 10-man plasma outriders is the most effective you can make outriders, and probably the best plasma delivery vehicle because it is twin linked.
Yeah, I think everyone except maybe I think world leaders don't get a lot out of the plasma bikers compared to everyone else.
Yeah, and that still depends on what it is you're doing with them. Because if you're running Berserker Assault, then you have to charge if you're within twin linked range. But you don't have to run Berserker Assault.
Although I guess really that's kind of even that. Now, even world eaters, you still get used. It's like, oh no, I have to charge with my bikes after I just peppered them with 20 shots.
Yeah, and I still
And
have chain axes on them, and I have hit and run.
yeah, so you're not in the world's worst shape. So that was really good. I think world eaters could get use out of. You can make the argument for Melta bikes over plasma there. Like you want to get
Yeah,
up close, you're gonna throw a bunch of strength 8 and then clean up with your chain axe, whatever's left.
they're like crack grenades into
Exactly.
vehicles.
Use them to clear vehicles and dreadnoughts.
Yeah,
It's not a bad way to do it.
yeah. So Night Lords and World Eaters, funnily enough, are one of several legions that I believe are now in this edition better bikers than White Scars. They've fallen a long way. There is a Warlord trait for White Scars that gives you a 4-up invulnerable save against dangerous terrain. That's it. That's your Warlord trait. You can argue that's the same thing for Jadic Clanlord, but that's essentially a 2-up invulnerable save.
I think. Wait, let me look. Is this another instance where Emperor's Children is better White Scars than White Scars? Yep, sure
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
because
they
I
sure are
can
because of Maruskara.
Maruskara. I can then reserve my bikers in. Oh no!
Yep,
And
and
choose what turn they come.
World Leaders can have +2 to run and charge, which works out to be better than a flat +1 move when you get to what it is you want those bikes to be doing. Another one that is arguable is the Dark Angels. They don't have any specific units, but they do have the Seeker's Arrow Rite of War for the Raven Wing, which allows you to have Sky Hunters and Outriders as troops. However, once again, they do not gain line. However, all cavalry, that is also Raven Wing, which is going to be all of them, or at least most of them, get Rampage 2, which can be real good on Outriders with Lightning Claws or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And all of your cavalry and infantry with Raven Wing unit type gain the Outflank special rule. That is important to note that bikes have Scout inherently.
Hey, there you go.
All
That's
right,
kind of
so
good.
the limitations on this one is that this is another one where the vehicles are heavily restricted. They have to be fast skimmer or flyers. And the funny thing about that is that I don't think there are any skimmer vehicles in the Astartes list anymore. I think they're all Custodes.
Yeah.
But you can all have all your flyers, your storm eagles, your fire raptors. But you can also include sabers, which are a fast attack option anyway, so White Scars could still have them. But I believe they are fast. You can
Yeah.
also only have a single heavy support choice, but it could be anything that isn't a vehicle that isn't a flyer. So you could take your Leviathans and Daradeos, you could take your Predators and Sicarins.
Yeah.
And also, you have to have Raven Wing on your stuff. Sure.
Oh, what's interesting is Raven Wing actually, for the kids at home, further affects the cavalry units. When you're a Raven Wing, all let's see, all units other than models and vehicles. So your cavalry is going to move 1 extra inch when it runs, and you can also re-roll any failed shroud damage mitigation rolls.
Yeah, so your Outriders or your Sky Hunters that are running that get their automatic shroud get to re-roll that automatic shroud. Yeah, maybe Dark Angels are still better bikers than White Scars. Though +1 to run instead of move is interesting.
Yeah,
It is different enough that I think I'd rather have the +1 to move because it doesn't restrict charges at all.
yeah, I think so too. Um, Although interestingly enough, all vehicles just get a +2 to their flat-out movement if they're Raven Wing.
Yeah, the cruising speed.
Yeah, the cruising speed. So it's neat. Um, More examples of what I've become to call the Dark Angels get all the tools all the time effect.
Yeah, which I mean
Um,
is by design. They have 6 different subtypes that they can choose from, but I mean that's neither here nor
oh
there.
no.
I'd like to give a special shout out. We already mentioned World Eaters in their little niche case with Berserker Assault, but Death Guard in the Creeping Death Rite of War just automatically pass dangerous terrain checks. So there you go. Your bikes never suffer dangerous terrain.
Oh god. Just adding to my melt the fetish Death Guard idea that
Yep,
I've been
and then
cooking
there's
on for
the
2 years.
Thousand Suns with the Pavoni, I believe, are able to ignore any penalty for moving through difficult terrain. I don't know that they means that they ignore the dangerous terrain portion, because that might be like the
Um,
movement penalty. Like you don't suffer the -2 for moving through it, like infantry. I'm not entirely sure, but it is just worth mentioning.
it is worth mentioning. I think because there may be another combo in there that's better than Pavoni, maybe. Oh, Pavoni, they ignore any penalties or movement for moving through difficult terrain, and they get +3 distance, so they're still better White Scar.
Yeah, the +3 distance is pretty good. Now, you do have to make a psychic check to be able to do that. So,
Yeah.
and there
Um,
are penalties for failure you are going to suffer. But it is a thing. Gray, I
you can
think you had
also.
also mentioned Raven Guard as something you were looking at.
I was. Before we move on from Thousand Suns, though, Raptora wouldn't be bad. Especially because you can give your unit an invulnerable save, which would help you get through that dangerous terrain. Right? Make a psychic check with power before any models in the unit are moved.
Oh, well, there you go.
So you get your invulnerable before you move. So no hiding behind dangerous terrain from Thousand Suns bikers. That's not bad.
It's also worth noting that the oh no, it's a 6 up or a +1. Never mind.
Yeah, so
To a
still
maximum of
better
4.
better than just eating the wound. So I looked at Raven Guard, and Raven Guard has rules for cavalry units. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a difference for most cavalry units. Um, because the people who wrote Raven Guard rules did it in a vacuum. So if you're a let's see, if you're a Raven Guard player, you get one of 3 versions of your Legion rule, and for our purposes, the you would get the if you're cavalry, you get the Hawks rule, right? Yeah. So the Hawk special rule is any models with this special rule gain a 6+ shrouded rule in a turn in which they run, move flat out, or move as a zooming flyer, with this benefit lasting until the start of the player's next turn. Or if that model would already gain Shrouded 6, then they get Shrouded 5. But if you already have Shrouded 5, you get nothing better.
Yeah, it's not even like, Heart of the Legion that just says, yeah, if you already have a Feel No Pain, then sure, have one better. Have a 4-up Feel No Pain on your attack squad, why not? It's just, hey, if you are running on a bike, just get fucked.
Yeah. So you get. I don't really know where it would actually help you. I can't think.
It would help you with a Proteus Land Speeder, because they don't get that automatic 5-up Shroud.
So, yeah, there you go. It overcomes the fact that you can't put apothecaries on your Protei. There you go. That's so it's niche. There's no negative to it. It's just overlaps so heavily with unit rules that it kind of makes you wonder if they wrote it in a vacuum.
Yeah, for sure. Some legions were definitely given more attention than others.
Yeah. If you ever want to feel uh like the Raven Guards got the PS3 treatment, just look at the Dark Angels rules. They have no game in their rules. But regardless, I think
All right.
that about does it for
Yeah,
Legions,
so
doesn't it?
let's say you're not one of those guys we mentioned. Let's say you're an Ultramarines player or a Blood Angel, and you still want to have a very cavalry centric army. What can you do for that? Well, just so happens that there is the Sky Hunter Phalanx generic right of war.
And it is good, in my opinion. So for the Sky Hunter Phalanx, you may take Sky Hunter squadrons and Proteus Landspeeder squadrons as troops. Um, all your Sky Hunter squadrons that you take in the troop slot gain line. Now, the limitations is anything that's a vehicle must be a flyer, fast, or a skimmer. Um, all units in the attachment composed entirely of models with the infantry type must begin battle embarked on a model with both the flyer and transport types. So if
So that's
you're,
your Storm Eagles, your Dreadclaws, or your Charybdis.
yeah,
Or your
or
Cestus Assault Ram.
if you're some kind of weirdo and decided to sell your car to buy a SOCAR patterned Stormbird,
Yeah, or a
you
Thunderhawk.
can bring that. You can bring that, I guess. Um, you may not include any dreadnoughts on your list. This can't be used in an allied attachment, and you may not use any fortifications, obviously.
Oh no. Anyway.
The dreadnought one is interesting because some of the flyers can't some of them transport dreadnoughts?
I think the Thunderhawk and or the Stormbird
So
can.
yeah,
But I mean that's it.
that's it. Yeah, but you can't take them anyways. I think the real gold here is getting the Proteus Landspeeder in the troop squad.
Yeah,
Troop,
that's
troop
pretty good.
squad. I think that's the big winner here. But overall, it's a pretty decent. If you run a anti-grav cavalry list, it is your way to go for most legions. That's you're only going to be your only choice.
Yeah, if you want to be losing in style with all the cover saves you don't get to take. And I harp on that, but I mean it does I've been living this. It comes in a lot more than you think it does.
Yeah, does hurt pretty bad. But
But
I
you
think
get
that
line, which is more than the Night Lords can say. I think it's more than the Ravenwing could say.
yeah, no, you do get line, which nobody. It's the only way to get line on your flying jet bikes.
Except for Shigorian Brotherhood.
Yeah, that's true. So I think there used to be a Outrider bike Rite of War in First Ed, but I don't quote me. I think there used to be a generic
Yeah, there was
Outrider
an
one.
Outrider one and also Skyhunter Phalanx, and they just dropped the Outrider one. I don't remember anything about it, and I'm not gonna dig through those books right now. But
Not at
it did
all.
exist. It doesn't now. We will remember it when it's convenient.
Yes.
All right, but
Um.
let's say you're not a Space Marine player. Let's say you are one of the hip kids who's not like the other girls, and you are playing a different thing altogether. What do you get to do for cavalry? Well, let's start. We'll start with the Mechanicum. The Mechanicum have no cavalry, just straight up. There's none in the book. There's none in the Legacies PDF. I don't believe there's been any others released in any other like supplements because they've all been like demon engines and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty quick. What about the
Which is
Legio
weird because they.
Custodes? What?
It's weird because there is a Mechanicus, a horseback rider model, and has been for about 5 years in 40K. I'm surprised they haven't found a way to port that backwards.
Yeah, you would think so.
The Hammerfall bunker can come back, but that cannot come backwards.
Yeah, the guy that hasn't really been invented yet.
Yeah, the Primaris bunker can fall from space backwards in time and make sure that the Emperor is defended, but no horseback robots.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
let's say you're a Legio Custodes player and you want to get some cavalry up in there. What do you have? You have one unit, and it's a pretty good one. It's the Agamatus Jet Bike Squadron. Now, in the Custodes army that I used to have, I had two squads of these guys, and I rate them very highly. So the Agamatus jet bike, or the Gyre Falcon jet bike, excuse me, is the technical term for the piece of war gear. It has a Lastrum bolt cannon that comes with it. They also get the 5-up shroud when they run. They are anti-grav and skirmish. The skirmish, obviously, you're not going to get +1 cover save, but it does give you that 3-inch coherency, which is very important. It gives them movement 16, Hammer of Wrath 1, Deep Strike, Outflank, all the other fancy Custodes rules. They also come with melta bombs and the Solarite Power Lance. Now, before we get into that, I will mention that you can swap out their Lastrum Bolt Cannon with an Adrathic Devastator or a twin-linked Corvée Laspulsar if you want to. They're fine options. I think I ran 2 units of 3, and each one had one Laspulsar in there. It's not a bad option. It's kind of expensive at 35 points, and they're already 85 points a guy. Interestingly, is that they are 3 wounds, but they are a 3-up armor save custodian unit. Now,
Ew.
the spear.
Beer is fairly
The
good.
Solarite powered lance. These guys are basically everything that I wish the Golden Keshig had been. Now, a Solarite Power Lance is Strength 10, AP 1, Melee, Armor Bane, Two-Handed, Sudden Strike 3. So you'll actually, if they were to somehow charge each other at the same time, your White Scars guys and these guys would be going at the same time because they would both end up being Initiative 8. However, you'll notice one thing that I didn't have in there was the Ungainly rule. Now, yes, they also lack Brutal, but I'll show you why that doesn't really matter that much. Now, unlike most custodian units, these guys only have one attack baseline. However, there is nothing that prevents them from gaining extra attacks, such as from a charge or from a nemesis unit. So you
Ooh.
have your super good spears that they're not brutal, but they are armor bane melee. So against things like dreadnoughts, or they lack lance, but they'll still be able to take on high armor value vehicles, and you can get those extra attacks. But they mitigate the nastiness of the spear by just making them one attack base, and I think that would be a fine way for the Golden Kishig to be. You'll also note that, the ungainly rule, which also means that these guys get to use that lance in the second round of combat if they are still in there. So,
Yeah.
against like a dreadnought, you'll get 3 attacks against a dreadnought on the charge because they're a nemesis unit, and then the next turn you'll get 2 because they're still a nemesis unit. And I think that would have been a perfectly fine way to write the Kantos power lance.
But alas, whoever got bad touched by um, White Scars definitely carried it forward all the way down.
Yeah. Now it is interesting to know. I thought you were going to say they didn't get bad touched by Custodes because the
Oh no, they
Agamatas
did
was
too.
absolutely disgusting last edition, and they did bring it
Oh
down a
no,
lot. It's
they brought it down a lot.
yeah, but I still think it's a very good unit. I think it fits in very well in the Custodes army list.
It's extraordinarily strong. You're pretty much um, last edition. Every Custodes list had bikes in it.
Yeah,
This edition, probably 90% of them have bikes.
yeah,
It's a real hard thing to counter. They're very, very good.
yeah.
Very fast, very deadly.
Interestingly, so it's funny you say that because the reason that I had them in that army is because the bikes were one of the units that I had heard a lot of other people, other podcasts, and just on the internet in general say that this was not a particularly great unit in the Custodes list. So that was what that army was, is like these guys and the jump pack guys,
Who are
of
also
who are also pretty good.
out. They're one of the best units I think in the game. The
The Venatari.
Venatori, yeah, they're so good. They're so good. Everyone who says they're bad is smoking crack.
Oh yeah, I
Give
mean,
'em
don't get me wrong. I found them to be a very good unit.
pistol, buckler. I have a 3-man unit that is just murked wide swaths of armies before. Like, if they're on my list to buy more of. They're so good.
Yeah,
Um, people really sleep on them.
yeah. That's
I,
neither here nor there, though. Of note is that you might think that the custodian speeders are like the javelin would be cavalry, but they are still vehicles. So we're going to talk about them only to say that.
yep.
Now, if you're an even more obscure hipster and you play Sisters of Silence, we have an answer for you still. The Subjugator Cadre. These girls are fast as hell on their Arrhenius jet bike, which gives them an 18-inch move. Like the Sky Hunters, they have 2 wounds. Interestingly, there is no model for these, which I find to be
No.
very interesting. However, the Arrhenius jet bike, it makes them cavalry anti-grav. They get a shrouded 6-up just for moving. You don't even have to run, you get a 6-up shroud. If you do run, you do get a 5-up. So there's that. What I find just absolutely delightful about this cheerleading squad is the fact that the Arrhenius jet bike, so you can put on it a needle cannon or an Adrathic Destructor, sure, that will give you some offensive firepower, but they come stock with, and what I think is the best option, is the snare cannon. Let me tell you about the snare cannon. The snare cannon is an 18-inch range, strength 7, AP dash, heavy 3, and tangle 2. Now, what is entangle, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. Entangle is a special rule that makes it so that you don't necessarily do wounds. So, number one, you're rolling to wound against the target's strength instead of their toughness, which is in most cases, if it's gonna be any different, it's probably actually gonna be harder to wound. I think there's a lot more like strength 5 T4 than there is the other way around.
Yeah.
But that's fine. When you inflict wounds, you don't make any armor saves or damage mitigation rolls. Instead, for each wound inflicted by an attack with this special rule, you reduce the movement characteristic of all models in the target unit by the number in brackets that is included as part of this special rule. To a minimum of 1, which that's kind of the unfortunate part, but until the end of the controlling player's next turn. They do not reduce wounds. You're not going to do any actual physical damage with that unit, but you are going to do a fuck ton of psychological damage. You are going to find a fast melee unit and pin them in place, essentially. And you can do it from 18 inches away, so that even if they do try to charge you again, which they do, cap it at movement 1. If it was movement 0, you wouldn't be able to charge at all. But movement 1, you're still at -1 to your charge bonus. So your roll 2d6 and subtracting 1 doesn't matter if you're on a jet bike or something. Now, there is limitations. Obviously, vehicles or Primarchs, or anything that starts the battle with 6 or more wounds, so like Dreadnoughts.
Artifact dude, yeah.
Yeah.
This would be a bad day for anybody running mechanic. Mechanicum get screwed by it. Other cavalry would hate to see that.
Yeah, like other like Outriders or just other. If there's an angry swarm of Outriders coming towards you, they're gonna have a tough time. If you manage to get it so that, I'm running, I have my 14-inch Outriders that gives me a +3 in my movement, and then you overwatch them and they were like 10 inches away, so now they have to roll an 11 instead of the 7 that they were expecting to. You find, a thing of jump pack, like Dawnbreakers or some shit. Intercept them with these girls. You can just like roll up on them, and they're just not going anywhere.
Could you use it to strip the retinue off of a Primarch? Primarch's immune, but is the rest of the unit immune? I don't know. That's something
I don't know. I would probably say that maybe. I mean, I guess. Like, sure, the Primarch could leave that unit if he wanted to, and leave them behind. I guess that's an option. I don't necessarily know that it works that way, but I don't know that it doesn't. But yeah, I have a squad of these that have been 3D printed for me, and I fully intend to use them as an allied detachment in my White Scars, just for that added fun factor when I don't feel like bringing the con to a 3,000 point game.
Of note, they are Judgment Chamber. That is of note.
Yes, that
Chamber's rule still applies. You have to bring a silent judge to run them, I think.
No, Judgment is the one that you can bring whatever you want, I think.
Is it? I think you have to have an HQ with the Judgment rule.
Yeah.
I don't remember how
I'm looking. Hold on one sec. No, Vigilance is the one you can have whatever you want. They do have Chamber of Judgment, which makes them fearless against any psychers. But you have to have an HQ that has Chamber of Judgment. Luckily for you, the Silent Fury is here. She's only 65 points. She comes with an Arinya's jet bike. Like, you're just golden.
Yeah.
You're just gonna get away with it.
Yeah.
I haven't used it yet, obviously, but just because that ensnare, it's not, I did any wounds at all, therefore the movement's reduced by 2. It's reduced by 2 for every wound you cause. It is and they're heavy 3. It is incredibly easy to get them down to movement 1. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter what unit it is or how fast they go. It is trivial to reduce them to movement 1.
yeah, like it's so good, so good.
And on top of that, you can give out a couple of close combat weapons. If you want run into like Iron Warriors or something that are all a big gun line and aren't going to be moving up forward anyway, then they still
Yeah,
have some use.
yeah.
But against any melee army, this unit is going to be fantastic. Oh no, I was looking at it wrong. They don't come with execution blades. I was looking at the wrong unit.
Yeah, no.
But you can
They have
still
close
give
combat
out
weapons.
give out a weapon to your
Mistress.
subjugator mistress, which, boy, that's a term, isn't it? And the Silent Fury can also have one, and she's no slouch.
She's actually neat. She's one of the few characters that can upgrade her bike ride. In fact, I think she's the only one in the game that can upgrade her bike ride.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up when we were talking about you can put a Legion Command Squad on bikes. You cannot, if you put an
Upgrade John
HQ
Bolters.
on a bike or a Command Squad, they are stuck with the stock weapon. The Silent Fury being someone who is just, this is just what she's doing. She's always on that. You can give her the same needle cannon or a Drathic Destructor.
And you can mastercraft it for 10 points.
Yeah, you can a Mastercraft or Snare Cannon.
Yeah, that's
Just
fucking
the finest
silly
French
fiat
Polands in the
politics.
land.
So, if you have a fetish for tiny nets, this is the army for you.
Absolutely. Let's say you're one of those guys who just really loves the little guy, and you're playing Solar Aux. You still have some options, believe it or not, because all of the Sentinels in the Solar Auxilia list are cavalry. So there is your Hermes Light Sentinel Squadron, which is a mechanized cavalry unit, and the mechanized is its own subtype that kind of treats them like pseudo automata or dreadnoughts. Like you have to reroll poison and fleshbane. They get to shoot everything, including as part of a reaction. They can shoot heavy and ordnance, or counting as stationary, and they are affected by haywire and battlesmith as if they were dreadnoughts, and also nothing else can join them that isn't mechanized.
Yeah.
Those guys are also skirmish, which is pretty good. They're a 10-inch move. Strength 5, T5, 2 wounds, and a 4-up save. That ain't nothing. And they can have the Hermes grenade launcher in frag or crack. Their crack is a strength 6 AP4 rather than the Astartes strength 8 AP3. They can also have multi-lasers, and you can bring them up to 6 in a squad, and they are a fast attack choice, which not a lot of fast attack choices in the Solar Aux list.
I think the Hermes has some value because it's so cheap. It's kind of swarm tactic with them.
Yeah, they are cheap. They're like uh, 36 points, no, 18 points a model for the
Yeah.
multi-laser, 23 for the grenade launcher.
I think they have some use. I think you bring the multi-laser to go grief troops, and bring the grenade launcher because it's got crack, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got the strength 6 AP4 crack. However,
Bring it to.
the frag is pinning, so you can grief some troops with that.
True, you can. But you can also. It's a cheap answer. Like I don't know, a bunch of those in a squad could be a cheap thing to tie up a dreadnought with. You really had no other option. Needed to keep a dreadnought in place for a turn. Just bring those up and pepper it
Yeah,
with
the
those
only
guys.
thing is that they're not going to get instant death by it because they're T5, but only being 2 wounds and no invuln, that
Yeah, they
Brutal
are
3
gonna.
is taking them down immediately.
Yeah, but you put like you charge a dreadnought, and you have like I don't know. I think you can bring what? Can you bring 10
6. You can
or is
bring
it 6?
6.
I mean, if you charge, you can sacrifice what's essentially what like a 100 point unit to put some wounds on and hold a dreadnought up for a turn, which is not nothing in mortals, as
Yeah.
mortals don't have a real answer for dreadnoughts other than heavy weapon batteries
Yeah.
and
And Vanquishers.
vanquishers. Well, vanquishers is the answer to every question.
Yeah.
They're really
I always
less of
thought.
an answer, and it's more of a question in and of itself, where the answer is yes.
Yeah. Now, your other option in your quest for Solar Auxilia Cavalry Supremacy is the Ethon Heavy Sentinel Squadron. These guys are a little bit sturdier. They're a little slower. They're at movement 7 instead of 10. They're strength 6, toughness 6, 5 wounds, and 2 up armor. Now, you talk about holding up a dread for a round. I think it's going to be these guys because they're going to withstand, a brutal 3
They are.
because they're having their 5 wounds. And they also have a 2 up armor save, which is incredibly rare in Solar Aux. They're also
Yeah.
heavy, and they come with a couple of different interesting weapon options. They have their Ethon missile battery, which is a 30-inch range, strength 4, AP5, large blast, twin-linked barrage, so no line of sight needed. They have the Melt-A-Lance, which is an 18-inch melt-a-gun. It's heavy 1, but it's just flat armor bane. It's not Melta. So you get the armor bane at full range. They can also bring multi-lasers or the Heavy Incinerator, which is a Strength 6 AP4 Assault 1 Torrent 6-inch template.
Not bad. But they're also a lot more expensive per guy. They're like
Yeah. The unit
60
of
points
3 that I have as a reference is 240 points. Now, that's 65 points on the cheap end for the multi-laser and 90 points for the Melt-A-Lance guy. And they do come in max 3. I think these guys' biggest issue is the fact that they're a heavy support option. And that is, there's a lot of competition for that slot.
Yeah. They're definitely the fact that they're in the heavy support really hurts them. They should probably have been fast attack.
Or
But
elites. I think
or
this would
elite.
be a good elite because yeah, they're not fast. They're only movement 7. They're heavy, but there's not a lot in the elite slot bars for Solar Aux. I think they
That's
would have been
fair.
fine there. But yeah, if you like
Yeah.
if you like cavalry, you might not be taking all that many Lehman Russes anyway. So there you go. There's something.
There you go.
And
Now
last, and probably
and
least, for
definitely elite.
the guy who is really just here to have a good time and put 1,000 hordes of horses on the table and just loves picking his stuff up. The militia do have a neat way to do cavalry. So they
It
have
is.
the militia cavalry squad, which is a movement 14. It's as fast as a Space Marine bike, with a 4-up armor save. Otherwise, it is a generic militia guy. They do have the light unit subtype, which means they get +1 to their run, but it also means if they run, they don't get to take a cover save. So your mileage may vary on that. They have basic las pistol, close combat weapon. Gray, why don't you tell us about the fun options they have?
All right. So you have exactly 4 options for your squad weapons. You may take with just your close combat option, your close combat weapon and your pistol, or you may take las carbine, which are not great. It's the same weapon you get as a regular militia infantry squad. I would not take that. Stub carbines, which I think actually is its own thing. It's assault 3, 12-inch, strength 3, AP nothing. You take that if you hate yourself. Then you get your two good. Then you get your two, quote unquote, good options. So their most expensive is the militia lance, which is strength 7, AP 3. It's melee. It's ungainly. So just like the
Golden Keshig.
Golden Keshig. You can only use it when you charge. You don't get a bonus attack on it. But it is brutal 2 and sudden strike 2. So you're gonna go
An I-5.
yeah,
So
an
it's like the
I5.
Kanto's Power Lance at home.
Yeah, it's like the discount.
Which is already the Solarite Power Lance at home.
Yeah, so this is the Timu Power Lance. And you may give one guy a Melta Lance, which is all that same thing, only it's strength 8, AP 3, and Lance. And it's one use to melt the lance, so he loses his militia lance to have a one use AP3 lance.
And it even loses the brutal. Like it doesn't gain
Yeah.
armor bane or like Melta or anything like a Melta
bomb. It does get lance though, so it does count it as armor 12.
It's not nothing.
So that's the Chad answer. But the secret tech, because it's the cheapest answer, is you give everybody shotguns and you have a great time. Just 15 guys with shotguns trying to concuss things.
18 perhaps even.
Waiting
to be concussed.
Yeah, unfortunately you can only take up to 15 per squad.
Oh, lame.
But if you love yourself or hate yourself, you can use the Clan Folk Levy to give yourself the option to take something like 100. Basically, you can just fill out your troop squad with cavalry and your fast attack, and I think you get extra slots as well.
Yeah, you get like 3 extra slots in fast attack, but they have to be the cavalry squad. So you can just take like
130 of them in a 2,500 point list and nothing else. So you can in fact do the last charge of the Rohirrim, and it will look like that 10-minute sequence where they're getting bodied by elephants. If you want to do that, you can do that. Yep. I thought about doing it, but that gets very expensive monetarily very quickly, and you will feel bad that you only ever play one-term games.
Yeah. Now, the other thing you can do in order to even take Clan Folk Levy, you have your Force Commander. You can put your Force Commander on a horse, too.
Yeah, and he gets all the Force Commander stuff, but then he is also just fast as a horse. He's actually not a bad option to put on a horse. Looking at him, what does he get for getting on a horse?
He gets movement 14.
Yeah. But other than that, he gets all the other Force
Commander. Hammer of Wrath.
Hammer of Wrath, yeah.
At your strength 3.
So he gets all the good and bad that cavalry involves. Which, since militia cannot rally, if I remember correctly, maybe putting him on a horse isn't the greatest thing in the world. Because he will run off the table and die.
Yeah.
But, it is an option. It's definitely an option. I don't know if it's the option I would take, but you do get a fast commander.
Yeah. And the final thing we'll talk about is, the existence of a light sentinel and a heavy sentinel certainly implies a generic sentinel, and that is what the militia get also in the fast attack slot, is just the basic sentinel squadron. You know what I just realized?
Huh?
I made the assumption that they're cavalry. They're infantry.
Oh, no, never mind. Well, we won't even talk about them any further other than to say...
Yeah, in order to say, you thought, you were going to have some cavalry, If you were gonna wonder, hey, why aren't they talking about sentinels? I'll tell you now, we were gonna, but they're not cavalry. They're
Yeah.
infantry for some reason.
Are all sentinels that way, or just the militia ones?
No, it's just the militia ones.
God, somebody got bad touched by militia last edition.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
big time.
Well, all right. Well, that's that.
Yeah, I guess that
So,
was kind of a very inglorious ending to the cavalry episode. Now, Gray, we've made some recommendations on the various things that you might use in order to get the most out of your cavalry. If you're a guy who just loves the feeling of the wind on your bald head, what what would be your go-to to just get the most you can out of your cavalry units?
my go-to, like if we're building a list, I would actually play Raven Guard because I'm a self-flagellator to do it, and I would do a Raven Guard Sky Hunter Phalanx list. Um, so if you'd like, I'll walk you through that. I put together. We've been
Yeah,
playing a
give
lot of
us give
3K.
us the high points.
Yes, we've been playing a lot of 3K lately. So this is a 3K list. Basically 2 squads of um Proteus land speeders. 3 speeders per squad. One squad's got Meltas top and bottom. The other's got Volkite top and bottom. Um, 4 Skyhunter squadrons in the troop slots, 5 man each. Half of them have Volkite, half of them have multi Meltas. 4 Cannon Melta javelins. And then a Spathabike command squad and Praetor and Chaplain. And giving the whole command squad dual Ravenclaw or Raven Talons, and then filling out my points with as many apothecaries as I can apply to that list. And so
Yeah.
you get kind of a very shroud heavy bike list. And you're going to want to play this, like, if you have the option to play night fighting, you're going to want to ask for it and roll for it. Because you can give
Oh,
yourself
sure.
improvisers. And you just play in the dark. Yeah, you don't have a cover save, but they can't shoot you if they can't see you.
Yeah,
And you
if
just,
you're, it's a searchlight check, really. You better your opponent better be making sure that they're making points in their list for searchlights and like augury scanners and whatnot, because they're gonna need
yeah.
them.
Yeah, so it's kind of just play bikes in the dark. How about you? What did you come up with? If you're going to do it.
So I have somewhat of a reputation in the local community that is fairly well earned, I would say. I am very heavy into my bike and other cavalry centric lists. The only one that doesn't have any is obviously my Mechanicum because they can't, at least not by themselves. The what I have found over my time is that cavalry is an excellent choice to use. There's a lot of great things you can do with them, but just as you might say that man shall not live by bread alone, one man shall not live by cavalry alone. That is a mistake that I've leaned into with my white scars. It worked last edition. It has not worked for me quite so well in this one. However, I have had tremendous effect with individual units of cavalry in my Night Lords and my World Eaters. Um, they are, and yeah, I think I think those are some fantastic legions for them. White Scars,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you, kind of just learn to not rely solely on anti-grav, and, I use a World Eater's command squad on bikes that does a lot of ripping and tearing. Night Lords, Swift Blade. It's just a fantastic list. Fantastic rite of
Yeah,
war,
no,
and they
definitely.
just tend to get away with it. You support them. If you support your cavalry will support you.
They definitely will. They have definitely. I have found in my uses of them because I've been using them a fair amount myself lately. Is that rarely does my cavalry carry my games,
Right.
but it definitely if you're smart with how you play them and you're judicious with it, they can definitely be that hammer to the anvil that is the rest of your army.
Yes.
So
They're a fantastic core. Even if you use them as
yeah,
seasoning, if you use them as the core of the list, they can be great. I, for one, believe that a 10-man plasma gun bike squad is, except for another dreadnought, the best anti-dreadnought unit in the game.
yeah,
Being
no doubt.
twin linked, strength 7, so the 4 is breach, and there's the only ones that wound anyway. And they're twin
Yeah,
linked, so you're not going to get hot as much.
for sure.
Shit, you can even slap a tech marine in there and hit on twos, rerolling ones.
Oh yeah, and you can even get that Tech Marina Thunderhammer. And if the dreadnought lives, you charge with your squad, and then the Tech Marine
Well,
obviously.
if the dreadnought lives, what you do is hope the dreadnought charges you and dies in Overwatch.
Oh yeah, true. You can do that too. But also give your Tech Marine a Thunderhammer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's that. It's one of
Yeah,
my favorite unit types. Heresy is a game that I love to live fast and eat ass, and
yeah.
boy, do I one way or another, and my cavalry make that happen.
Yeah, I hope we see more cavalry units be released for the game in the near future here. It'd be nice to see some more units come back afield for them.
It would be
We
good.
definitely
I
have
think
lost a
some
few.
like dark mech cavalry would be pretty good. That's a
Hmm.
direction they're headed in.
See scout bikes come back. That'd be
Scout
cool.
bikes, yeah. Maybe something that you could put your Pathfinder with. Be able to give a Pathfinder a bike for once. Maybe you can get something
Yeah,
out of that. Hey, there's your ignore dangerous terrain, get moved through cover. There's something worthwhile.
yeah. So I think yeah, you heard it here. You heard it first. Everyone says Cav are bad this edition. They are liars. Cav are still valuable. You just have to be smart with how you play them,
Yep.
like anything else. Cool. I think that covers us through till next time. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that'll about do it for this episode of the Argel Talk podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can leave a YouTube comment. Um, you can send us an email at argeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send us comments, hate mail, if you have a list that you want us to look at and give you our distinguished takes on them, feel free to do so. And until next time, roll piss.
Roll it.